Welcome to episode 9 of Airline Club. Let's get started by taking a look at my existing routes. If I sort them by load factor, we see that Naples to Dresden is having some trouble here. So I've probably raised the price too high. You can see we're still below the direct demand amount. If we compare this to the default price, oh wait, this is the default price. Actually, I don't quite know what the problem is then. I'm going to try improving service quality and seeing if that makes any difference. Oh, and before I forget, I'm going to come over to the, I better update that or the changes won't take effect. I'm going to come over to the office. My current service quality has been rising slowly, but it's almost hit my limit. So I'm going to raise that to 32, just in case I don't get back here for a little while. Still pretty cheap. Okay, continuing on with routes. Naples to Warsaw looks pretty good. These red spots here indicate flight cancellations. So there's not much you can do about that other than just using newer planes. And it'll happen sometimes regardless. There is one place where there was just a lack of demand, but I'm going to leave this route alone or maybe increase the price. Let's see how it compares to the default. 1, 2, 3. 3's good. Okay. Here in Bremen, we've had even bigger problems. Right now it's not doing too badly, but you can see there have been huge shortfalls in demand. So maybe I've increased the price too much. What is the default? This is the default. So again, not quite sure what the problem is. We're still well below the direct demand. I'll drop the price a little bit, and I've added a star for more service quality. I feel like that should do it. So maybe over time, as our awareness in Bremen grows, that will improve. The rest of these are all at 100%, but I'm going to go through them anyway and potentially increase prices. Naples just doesn't seem quite as strong, so I'm a bit reluctant to increase prices too much. But if this is at the default price, no. It's been increased by 1 step. I'll leave that alone for now. I can always come back to it some other time. Naples to Genoa. Where was I at? I don't remember. I just click on it again to revert back to where I was. And I had full demand. I could try increasing the price, or I could just leave it alone. I'm going to just leave it alone because some of my other Naples routes haven't been doing as well. And this is that Greek island with a tourism bonus. We're at the default. I'll increase it by 1 notch. Okay, the London routes. Now remember, London has the Olympics. So I really should be able to get away with big price increases. We haven't reached the limit yet. How far are we from the default? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's go up to 6. I'm tempted to go up to 7 even. Yeah, we're nowhere near the direct demand. I'll update that. Now the Olympics, I understand, is bugged right now, so it's actually way overpowered. It's not intended to be providing a bonus yet, but it is. So I guess I'll take advantage of that and raise my prices. I don't know, maybe that's kind of gamey or something. But I need to build up a war chest in case my fears materialize that a bunch of airlines open up hubs here. And it really was just coincidence. I had totally forgotten. I didn't even bother paying attention to the Olympics in this game, and I never had previously. But, they fell in my lap, and so far no one is taking advantage of competing with me on any of these routes. I guess I haven't been checking specifically, but I'm at 100% capacity, so now I might end up bringing these prices right back down, actually, if I add flights. We'll see. London to Naples I'm going to leave alone. That's the one that has competition too, so yeah, sure, I'll leave that alone. Yeah, I don't think I need to offer better service. I think I can raise my prices on all of these. So I guess in a way it's a little too fortunate for to use this as an example, because in most situations you're not going to just happen to be in the Olympic City with a bunch of cities that are wide open like this. At least I wouldn't think so. And especially for such a big airport as London Heathrow. But you take what you get. Okay, so I have about $15.5 million. I could build up my base in Naples. I could start looking for a new base. I'm certainly going to consider Istanbul again. I would consider Madrid like I did initially. Eventually, I'm going to want an intercontinental base because I don't feel like I need 5 bases in Europe, and you can get up to 5 bases without worrying about champion points, which I'll discuss more some other time. But what I want to do instead is capitalize on London Heathrow. Right now I have a scale 1 base, I think it's called. We view the airport. My base scale is still at 1. So if I had $28 million, 29 let's say, I could increase that and I would get a bunch of new slots. And then I could also open new routes, because currently I only have 2 slots left. I can't do much with that. And there's also a route limit, which is 15 right now, but it will go up to 20 when I increase this base. So I'm going to borrow money to do that. If we take a look at my income, it's doing pretty well, pretty consistently at about 900,000. If we look at my cash flow, it's also at about 800,000. So, and it looks pretty stable. I just went and increased prices. That's a risk, I guess, but if I get away with it, obviously I'll have even more income. And currently, I'm only paying about, what is this, 230,000 or something in loans and interest. So I feel like I can safely increase that amount. When I go to the bank, I can borrow about $60 million. And I'm tempted to just do that because I want to open a new route in London. I don't know how many slots that's going to give me. Unfortunately, I have to borrow the money in order to open the base and find out. but I'm guessing it's going to be quite a few. So I'm going to need a lot of money left over to buy more planes. And if I have excess money, that's not a problem. I'll just start buying bigger planes. So let's just take a loan for everything we can. And I'm going to come back to London and upgrade the base. Okay, now I have 36 slots available. Some of those I should probably just put into my existing routes because some of them have just a ton of potential already. Most notably Krakow. But even before I do that, maybe I'll do some math here and think, how many flights does one of my planes typically get me? Let's try to find that out. Oh, I have an unused plane? Is that right? Why do I have an unused plane? Okay, so let's just find one of these 11, 11, 11. Okay, let's just assume I get about 11 flights out of each plane. I have one available already. I don't think I have any slots in Naples, so I'm just going to ignore that. I would need 3 planes, pretty much, to use up all these slots. And I already have one, so I only need to buy 2 more planes. And I'm thinking, oh yeah, I definitely want to purchase a bigger plane now. So that'll be fun. Okay, I've taken a look at the various planes, of course, and maybe I'll put in a small cut here and pull up a chart. Okay, so this is a chart that I made of some of the sort of lower end airplane models, and especially the cheaper ones. I didn't include, for example, the Bombardier 100, CRJ 100 and 200. They're very good planes. The problem with them is that they're relatively expensive for the number of seats that they give you. And the compromise is that they have very good fuel economy. But I'm not going to worry so much about fuel economy. I just want to be able to use my cash to grow my business as quickly as possible. So that's why I prefer the Embraers, because they tend to be a little bit cheaper to purchase, and it's that upfront cost that I care about more so that I can expand as quickly as possible. Now, obviously, this is the plane that I've been using. I'm not going to go any smaller than that. My plan had been to move up to the ERJ 140. This is another Embraer plane. And you can see it's more expensive per seat, and the fuel economy per seat suffers quite a bit. Again, this doesn't correlate necessarily to real life fuel economy, and this should be thought of as the total operating costs, including maintenance and any other expenses like that. But I believe it's all directly affected by the oil price, so it's pretty volatile based on the oil price. And then here's the range, which isn't really a factor in the operating costs, but it determines where you can use the plane. So it's pretty important to keep in mind. There are other statistics and they do matter, but for my purposes, I'm just going to simplify it down to this. Now I could go another one step up, But you see, this plane starts to become fairly expensive per passenger. And the fuel economy is still pretty good, though. But I'm going to go up to this 88 size, which is almost 3 times larger than the planes I have been using. Now, the 170-200 is probably the best bet because it's pretty cheap and the fuel economy is okay. The range is not great. It's really meant as kind of a short haul plane, but compared to what I've been using, it adds quite a bit of range. So I think that strategically this is my best choice. And I should also add that it's in the ERJ family. All of these EMB and ERJ models are combined. So they only take up one space in my overall airplane model limit. But I don't have to worry about that limit anytime soon. Now, although I just said that this is the best choice strategically, I'm considering simplifying and just using the 175 E2. It's almost identical, not only in terms of fuel economy and size, but speed and other factors, I think. The only differences really are that it costs more, and therefore it costs more per passenger, and it has way better range. So the idea would be I could use this for almost all of my flights until I need a bigger plane. This would become my sort of medium-sized plane. And I would just fly 120s and 175 E2s. And that does have advantages because it makes it easier to stick a plane on a smaller route or on a shorter route. If I use the 170-200, then eventually I'm going to need a separate plane to start flying longer distances. And then I might come and grab this one. And then if I have both of them, I can't mix and match. So if I have extra capacity left over in one of these planes, I can't stick it on a route that already uses the 170-200 because you cannot use 2 different models on the same route. On the other hand, this plane does cost $3 million more, and $3 million is not inconsequential. But I feel like I've been pretty fortunate so far, and so I guess sort of for roleplay reasons, I think I will just go with the E175 E2, and that way I'm only flying 2 different models. Now, I guess if I needed to, I could come back later and replace them with this plane, and then free these up to fly longer routes. Yeah, I could do that if I needed to. So I also have the CRJ 1000 here. It's a bit bigger, which is nice. I certainly have routes that can use that much capacity, but it's quite a bit more expensive per seat. And it does have the same fuel economy, which is good because anytime you can get a bigger plane for the same fuel economy, that's a good deal. It also has shorter range though, or at least shorter range than the E2. So that's a consideration as well, although it's not really relevant just yet. All right, so I'll just jump back into the game now. And I guess I said I was going to go with the E2, which does move me up to 2 families, but I'm okay with that. There it is, 35 million, capacity of 88. It has a pretty good speed, which is nice if we compare the speed to the 120. Oh, right. It's actually down here somewhere. There. Yeah, it's quite a bit faster, So that matters for competitiveness, but it also matters, I assume, because it means that my plane will arrive faster and I can get more flights in on the same plane. But I'm not totally sure how that works, because a bigger plane usually also has a longer turnaround time. In any case, I'm going to take a look at the used market, sort by condition. None of these look appealing to me. If I pay $35 million, I still have $12 million left, which is enough to buy a new plane and, maybe just barely enough to open up new routes. Maybe I should manage. It should be fine. And actually, I don't need to open new routes because my existing routes have plenty of excess capacity or scope for adding more flights, basically. Okay. Oh, I did forget about this, though. You're supposed to order these in advance. All right, 6 weeks. Now, if I ordered a used plane, I could get it immediately, but I just don't like the used planes that are being offered. And I think it's going to be fun. Oh, but I could also take a look at the used market for this plane. Technically, there's a good deal on some of these, but I just don't like buying anything below 60% because I feel like I'm going to have to replace it too quickly. So I will just take my time and place this order. All right, now I only have one more plane, unless I buy it used. And I scrolled past the planes I want to buy. All right, on the used market, I don't see anything in green, and I would need to get each plane for less than $6 million in order to be able to use up all of my slots immediately. So I think I'll just leave my slots open for when that new plane arrives. And I will purchase one more of these right now. Now the question is, do I want to open new routes or just add flights to existing routes? Let's start with the existing routes. It actually makes me nervous thinking how someone else could come in and notice that there's only 240 out of 1470. Honestly, though, I can't increase it enough to make a difference anyway. I'm not going to scare them off by going up to 300 or more. Nevertheless, well, that's half. I could consider reducing the price. Remember, this is more than I'm actually charging currently, which you can't see on this screen. I'm just not that worried about it, though. It's not even half the direct demand. I think I'll be okay. And I think there was another city in Poland that looked pretty promising. And it starts with a bunch of consonants. Ah, this one, okay. So it's short. But I guess it's not that short. I think there was also a decent one in eastern Poland, or someplace called Walls something. Let's see if I can find that. Okay, well, I did not find the one that I was looking for, but this one is better anyway, and maybe I made a mistake in my notes or something. thinking I probably did. However, I like this more because it's a longer flight, which means it has more potential for profit, but it's still within range, and it has plenty of direct demand. When I checked it before, it was at 267. So because of the Olympics, I guess, it's gone up to 409. I think that's about a 50% increase. In any case, it's a very large increase, and especially for one that applies for multiple years. So it's like the Olympics and the World's Fair, and I don't even know what all it would take to get to the point where that would be realistic. But London is a very hip city right now, and so we will take advantage of that by offering lots of flights into London. Okay, I will leave it at the default. No, there's no reason to do that. I think people are going to come anyway. I'll already increase it one little bit. And I would go even higher, except that I have no awareness in that city yet. And I don't have any planes with much range. Oh, just for fun, let's fly to Finland, if that option is still as attractive as it was. Turku, this place. It's just barely within range, and it has plenty of demand. 5 flights. Okay, that leaves me with 13 flights available, which I will use most of when my new plane arrives. So I might do a quick episode and maybe just tack it on to the end of this one when that plane arrives. But for now, I've basically exhausted my money, so I can't really do much else. And so this is the end.